Welcome back to the Broad Street Benchwarmers podcast. My name is Adam Dan. Michael Cormlos is here with me. Ethan Leviditis not able to join us tonight, but he will be back as always. We'll get the whole gang together for lots more NFL and NBA action. But we just wanted to come on here on a Friday night. Wednesday night it is. I'm all messed up in the week. And just talk a little NFL football because you haven't really gotten the opportunity to do that as the season has kind of rolled on, and give some takes as we continue down the stretch. We're almost 3/4 of the way through the season. So, I mean, I'll start with you, Mike. How have you enjoyed this NFL season so far, and what have kind of been your biggest overarching takeaways before we dive into the nitty-gritty of all this?
It's had its ups and downs. I mean, I think as a season, it's actually been a really fun season. I've had fun watching it. The Texans have had their problems with their coaches and their defensive players, which is really, really scaring me. But I think outside of the Texans, there've been a lot of good surprise teams that have come up, a lot of teams that nobody likes that have kind of been able to, and you make everybody happy, especially with the Cowboys being bad and such. So I don't know. It's been fun so far.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's been a lot of surprise and a lot of disappointment across the entire league. And that is the theme of what we're doing today. We're going to start with kind of our biggest surprises in the NFL. We're going to talk about some of the biggest disappointments across the NFL. And then we're going to give some predictions for what we're calling the fourth quarter of this NFL season as this home stretch occurs. Heading up on week 12, I think it'll be 12 or 13. So, going to give some week 13. So give some predictions for this final stretch. But I'll let you start. Our biggest surprises of the 2024 NFL season. I think there's one team that you had in mind.
There's two. I'll start with the one I've had more fun watching because of some nostalgia. But the Denver Broncos have been absolutely awesome. That defense has just been earth-shattering good. They've kind of almost shut down everybody they've played so far. Sean Payton kind of coming out of the grave at this point. Thought his career was dead. And it's very much not anymore. He's been awesome with the Broncos, and then obviously I won't skate around it anymore. Bo Nix, went from a guy who I said was the worst quarterback taken in the first round to probably the offensive rookie of the year at this point. He's been awesome. He's been efficient. He's been smart with the ball. He's been accurate. He hasn't really had to show off the arm a lot, but it hasn't been bad. Everything that we said was going to go wrong with him pretty much has not gone wrong. And that's making me pretty happy. So, it's been great to watch him. I'm hoping to see more of it consistently through the playoffs and, probably the playoffs because it's looking like they're going. And what do you think about the Broncos?
Yeah, I agree. I've been really high on this Denver squad all year, but it really hasn't been about the offense because honestly, early in the season was a little up and down with how Sean Payton had been in kind of control of this team. I thought they were putting a lot on the plate of Bo Nix, more than they needed to. And as the season's gone on, they've definitely adjusted to that, and that's where I'll give credit to Payton. They've kind of slowed down this offense, taken a lot of the power out of his hands with kind of the checks at the line and, the figuring out of coverages himself, and a lot more simply just RPO, college style stuff he ran at Oregon, and just dumbing it down a little bit for him. But defensively, this has been as complex as it gets. And, shout out to Ahiro Evans, who just continues to be one of the top coordinators in the NFL. This Denver defense is just so stout. Pat Surtain has been great. We talk about that all the time. But Riley Moss, one of the top corners in the league so far this season, has really made an impact opposite Surtain. And then this defensive line, which we all made fun of in the offseason, has been really solid as well. So I think if Denver is going to continue to win games, it's going to be on the backs of this defense. And I see no reason why they're not going to be able to with how prolific they've been so far this season.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's been really awesome. And, another thing that I feel like isn't getting enough credit is the offensive line. in
Mhm.
Denver. That they maybe not being so great in the run blocking department, but with the pass pro, I mean, Bo Nix, I'm looking right now, has the sixth most time in the NFL to throw.
Yeah.
Higher than guys like Herbert, Jordan Love, and with Patrick Mahomes. Guys who are on teams that we've all kind of had this deception that they have a great offensive line. We didn't really talk about how that Broncos O line's really been able to protect them this season, which is really good. I think it's helping them a lot.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. That's been so key to them and so different from what it was a year ago. You think about it, and I think in retrospect now, I think we're seeing kind of the difference between Wilson and Nix in this offense as well. I think part of how great this offensive line has also been a part of how Sean Payton has schemed around Nix, has invested in Nix, invested in him in going to his strengths and getting the ball out as quick as possible to receivers in space to create that yards after catch. Whereas a year ago, it felt like Peyton and that Wilson offense was simply so frustrated with even the idea of having Wilson as his starting quarterback that he was simply allowing Wilson to be that guy running around in the pocket for 13 seconds that led this offense to be just completely inept. So
Exactly.
I think, just seeing that makes this so much more efficient of a team. And yeah, I mean, who would have thought this is a playoff football team? Like
Oh, it's crazy, and another
yeah.
another team that is having a similar kind of vibe this season is the Washington Commanders, with another rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, who's just been awesome. He was maybe the runaway for offensive rookie of the year. It felt like a few weeks ago. It's kind of getting a little closer. He had a couple of rough games, but I mean he's still playing well. He's playing good ball. He's been efficient as a runner, even post injury. He's been a
Mhm.
solid passer. He's making smart decisions with the football. He's been a big leader in that locker room as well. Everybody in there loves him. The defense has been solid. The run game is the run game. It exists. The O line exists, but he's kind of put the offense on his back. It feels like, which is something crazy to think of Jaden Daniels doing. If you ever watched him at Arizona State University.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I have been it's been such a pleasure to watch Jaden Daniels so far this season. Even with how he's kind of slowed down, I'd still consider him to be, I'd say, far and away the offensive rookie of the year, just with how he's contributed to that Washington offense and really been the focal point. It's a lot of it has been on his arm and his ability to find holes in the zone, but over the past couple of the weeks since the injury, I think it's been really emphasized how much his scrambling ability helps this team. His ability to get outside of the pocket and create for this offense when that pressure is coming, and just provide them with those extra couple of yards. I think, with the rib injury that he suffered now, we're seeing how impactful that was to the offense early
Oh,
and,
sure.
just the impact that it has as a whole. So, I think defenses are starting to clue in a little bit, especially since they don't have like the best skill position room in the National Football League outside of Terry McLaurin. But I think what Daniels has done just himself to carry this offense through has been incredible. And like you said, the offensive line hasn't been perfect either. So really for him to be a fulcrum like he has been really, really fantastic to watch.
Yeah, I also think Brian Robinson, when healthy, has been really good. But he's just had a couple games where he's been out. If he had been consistently healthy, I think maybe talk about him and the good area that's that skill room too. Like, he is top 10 in EPA and EPA per play for running back so far this season. Even though he has missed 2 games, he's the only one in the top 10 that has played not double digit games. So
Yeah.
good to see him finally putting it together and having a good year, and probably what could end up being a 1,000-yard season.
Yeah, tough physical runner. I mean, you're going to continue to look to invest in that running back room. I don't think giving, whatever 50-year-old Austin Eckler's bald ass touches is helping him any bit in this offense. But
Yeah.
it's definitely they signaled it to be his job to lose in the off season, and he has carried through on that end. I wanted to talk a little bit about the defense though, just
Oh,
because
the defense has been
I mean
awesome.
that's well, it is where I start to worry, and it's been kind of the cause for my worries over the past couple of weeks now, especially after that Dallas game. Where do you kind of stand with the defense after, I'd say, the play of that secondary in that Dallas game, and how do you look for them to improve over these next couple of weeks?
No, well, I look at the guy they traded for, trying to figure out what the hell where he is and why he's not playing. I mean, this Marshall injury was deemed to be he'll miss a week, maybe he'll miss two, but he'll be back on the field soon. And we're now looking at 4 weeks after the deadline with no
Yep.
Jaden Daniels. So not no Jaden Daniels, no Marshawn
Mhm.
Lattimore. I think
Yep.
that's going to be a massive key to them being better on offense. I mean on defense, obviously, but that's really my big thing. I mean, I still think that D line has been solid. The linebackers are competent enough to get it through. It's just getting that secondary kind of just to the finish line at this point, at least until Marshawn Lattimore comes back.
Yeah, I think for me, it's really the youth and the miscommunication, and a lot of it comes from this Dan Quinn style of defense, in which you're kind of in your set role, and there's not a lot of adjustment to different styles of offenses, and so we saw a lot of like miscommunications in between zones when this Cowboys defense started using motion to try to dial it up against them. And shout out to Mike McCarthy for a pretty solid game plan against his former defensive coordinator. But it just, continues to be on them to be able to cover up for explosive plays, and they've kind of been able to do that. Just a lot of mental errors as a whole. So you just have to look for that to be cleaned up. I like their interior defensive line, how they've played so far this season, but as a pass rush, they've struggled as well. Cooper Rush pretty much had free pockets all day on Sunday. And so that's another thing you're going to have to clean up as these playoffs go on. But again, like, this is a pleasant surprise. We're not looking at this like, oh my God, this is a team that's going to go into Detroit in January and take them down. We're looking at this as a continued growth of this franchise. And I think for them to be in the spot they're in right now speaks a lot to what they've been able to do organizationally.
Very reminiscent to a certain AFC team from last year.
Yeah. Yep. Maybe that AFC team was a little more put together defensively, but I agree.
Good D line, okay linebackers, bad secondary. Seems pretty similar.
I'm not gonna compare Benjamin St. Just to Derek Stanley, but I know you will.
You do.
So I guess I'll throw out my two surprising teams since we're here. My first one that I wanted to start with was actually the Pittsburgh Steelers, who I think shouldn't have been as surprising to us as they have been. This is a team, I remember we had discussions in March about this potentially being a 10 or 11 win team. We just looked at the schedule and we were like, oh my God, like this is really hard. But looking up and down this roster, there weren't many holes outside of the big position in the middle, QB1. And so far, Russell Wilson has done just enough to kind of answer those questions most of the time. This defensive line has been incredible. This offensive line and this really young group has absolutely answered the bell. I mean, they have been one of the top units in football despite all the questions in the offseason. Zach Frazier has been incredible. Broderick Jones really picked it up. Mason McCormick, like they are a really talented group that the Steelers can continue to build on for the future. And then much better linebacker play. I don't think it's been emphasized how good Patrick Queen has been this season for the Steelers team in comparison to what they had a year ago. So he's just provided a sense of stability in the middle for the Steelers defense that allows them to run kind of their Tomlin-esque physical brand of football, man coverage. And it's just all led to success all across the board for the Steelers team.
Absolutely, man. It's been awesome. This team I have winning 6 games. No disrespect to the roster. They just had the schedule. Whoever made that schedule for them is like literal Satan. But I shouldn't have doubted Mike Tomlin because Mike Tomlin has proved that he's still one of the best head coaches in football. And Yeah, I think everything you said was pretty head on.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I was going to go to follow up another team that's been spectacular defensively so far this season, and a little bit more, I would say, of a surprise, and that would be the Minnesota Vikings, who got out to a roaring hot start early in the season. They started, I believe, 8-1, have slowed down a little bit since then.
They were like 6-1. I think they're like 8-2 or
6-1.
9-2 now.
Okay,
So they
but
slowed down with a 9-2 record. I mean,
9-2 record, exactly.
second best
Just
record in a very competitive NFC, man. They
just a
suck.
dominant football team. I mean, it's all come down to Brian Flores defensively and what he's brought to this roster. It's been
It's not
strong
all of it,
play.
but
I would say a good majority of it. And just the strong play of these linebackers, the strong play of his pass rush, and what he's gotten out of not the most talented group on paper defensively, but a group that's been able to really get to the quarterback in all levels, and the secondary that's been able to hold up behind him. So, been really impressed from what I've seen so far from this Minnesota team.
I'll give him his flowers because you won't give it to him. The career resurgence of Sam Darnold too has been absolutely amazing. He hasn't been a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, but he's also not seeing ghosts anymore. All the EPA and advanced metrics I've been looking at on NFL Pro have pretty much led me to believe that he's actually been anywhere from he's been a slightly above average quarterback in the NFL this season. The turnover problems are still a bit of a problem, but I think it's gotten a little bit better. He's gotten more accurate, since his days in hell. I mean, at the Jets and the Panthers. He's been a bit of a better decision maker, I think, at least in my opinion. He's more accurate. The arm has looked a little bit better. It's just been awesome. He's proved that he once again deserves to be a starter in the NFL somewhere. Whether that will be with the Vikings next year, I seriously doubt, just because of the whole drafting a overrated quarterback in the top 10 kind of thing. But I think if there's a team not in the bottom tier, but like a kind of like middling like team that was to go like 7-10 or like 8-9, 9-8 kind of thing that's looking for a quarterback that's not really in perfect position to draft one of the top quarterbacks in this draft class. I mean, Sam Darnold kind of fills that hole for you as a bridge and a guy who maybe could win the starting job and moving forward. But it's been awesome. He's been great.
Yeah, I mean, I go back and forth. I do believe he, like you said, he's shown significant improvement to who he was as a Jet. I do believe this Kevin O'Connell infrastructure has been fantastic for him and just created so many opportunities for him to be able to have the system to have the pressure lifted off of him through his different pass protection sets, and just getting the ball out quickly and getting the ball out efficiently with a strong run game behind him. I mean, we haven't even mentioned yet how great Aaron Jones has been for this Minnesota Vikings team. Just so great as a downhill runner. Has really showed that he still has some legs left, even at advanced age. And so yeah, I think I agree to an extent with Arnold. I think I see a scenario in which he's kind of that fringe starter for the rest of his career. But the turnover issues still worry me, especially come playoff time. And we're talking about a team that just added Daniel Jones to their practice squad. Like,
Daniel Jones is not starting for any team that has more than 4 wins for this season. I don't care where he is right now.
I think if we get into turnover trouble come playoff time, I would not be surprised if we see a little bit of him.
That would be the worst decision ever made. I'm sorry, Daniel Jones is not top 32 NFL quarterback. I'm done.
I wouldn't be shocked.
I'm not doing this. Daniel Jones is not a top 32 NFL quarterback. That is going to go down as one of the worst picks of all time.
Maybe.
He's terrible. I'm not doing this.
I just believe that within that Kevin O'Connell offense,
turnover trouble, you're gonna look to Daniel Jones.
I think they're equivalent.
Why would you go? So I don't think that. From one, I don't think that's true. Two, if you're looking for turnover trouble with one guy, why are you gonna go to the guy that gives you the same production with a noodle
because the other guy gives you a mobility which Darnold does not.
Okay, and gives you accuracy and a noodle arm that Darnold does not have as well. So, like, what's the trade-off? What's the win?
The mobility, I would say.
That no, because that ball could go 12 yards over a defender's head. It could not make it. I don't know if it can make it
Maybe.
12 yards.
I think you could argue that with Darnold too, though.
Yeah,
It's
but I have way more faith in Sam Darnold after watching him be the at the helm of the team that's gone 9-2, compared to
yeah.
seeing that we've literally gotten zero good production from Daniel Jones in almost his entire career, with the exception of one
I
season,
don't think that's true. Yeah, one season.
which I
But this
guess
has been Darnold's one season.
what
I said this has been Darnold's one season, essentially, as
exactly.
well.
So I'm saying you can come
So,
back and clap that at me too, but
yeah.
I just
I
can't see.
just I credit Darnold for some of these games, but I mean, I go back to even that Packer game, which I think is probably what we're going to look at as their most impressive win so far this season. Would you agree with that? And the way he kind of attempts to throw that game away late. I mean, he's just, they're up 2 late in this game, and he's just really headhunting to try to extend this lead. Green Bay picks it off, almost has a chance to take this one, and they turn it over themselves because, of course, they have Jordan Love at quarterback. But it's
Lower EPA per dropback this season than Sam Darnold.
who does?
Just Jordan Love.
Jordan Love has worse EPA per dropback.
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me with some of the turnover luck for him. But I mean,
And
that Jacksonville game as
They're
well.
not gonna bench him for Daniel Jones. Let's use your logic.
Yeah. But that Jacksonville game as well, it's a similar situation. So I think, within this Kevin O'Connell offense, we know he's a great coach. We know he has the ability to kind of scheme around these quarterbacks. I think if you get to a point where Darnold hits that cold streak, I think Daniel Jones is a better option than Nick Mullins. I
don't think he's a better option than Sam Darnold, though. Cold streak or not, I don't know what you've seen from Daniel Jones to tell you.
I've seen one singular NFL season in which Daniel Jones was a productive NFL quarterback, and that's more than I had seen from Sam Darnold.
It's the same.
So I think just within this Minnesota Vikings ecosystem, I have the belief that Kevin O'Connell can make it work.
All right, you do your boo. I already said that.
Yeah.
Not as funny, I guess, but whatever you think. Even though it's so wrong. Should we jump into our 2 favorite teams?
2 favorite teams. We're doing 2 favorite teams?
Well, you have a team you cheer for, and I have a team that I cheer for.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going to do disappointments. We can do 2 favorite teams.
Well, we might kill 2 birds with 1 stone with mine.
Oh, sounds good.
But you go first.
I don't think they're one of the disappointments. You want me to talk about my favorite team, or you want me to talk about my disappointment?
Eagles first, because the Eagles are the fun one to talk about.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm having a grand old time, man. It's really been, and I talked about this on my podcast. Defensively, just their ability to kind of coalesce over the past couple of weeks in a way that I hadn't seen from an Eagles defense really since 2017. This secondary is by far the most impressive thing that I've seen so far this Eagles season in how young they are and how they're responding to this Vic Fangio system and the various what it calls for as far as communication, what it calls for as far as a kind of conjoined coverage. And then as far as this pass rush as well, that secondary being as good as it has really opened the door for Fangio to just simply rush 4 and be able to get pressure just because, nobody's able to create separation behind them. So I'm really excited to watch them continue playing. And then Saquon fucking Barkley, man. Like, it's beautiful. So
Ertz has been better this year too.
Yeah, I agree. I still feel I have concerns about pocket presence on a general basis, and I still have concerns about accuracy over the middle of the field at times. But if he can play his consistent brand of football and fit like he did Sunday night within this offense, then it's exactly what you asked for. And how he's been as a runner really adds just such an extra dimension to this offense. So I'll take that any day.
I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
Now that you've seen your team actually perform against good defenses and good teams, how do you feel about Nick Sirianni?
I feel similar to how I felt going into the 2023 season, which is if the chemistry is good on this Philadelphia Eagles team and they are, this culture, this atmosphere, which is what essentially it has become his job to do, is to control, is good, then Sirianni is fulfilling his role. And that's exactly how this team has been so far this season. So, I have the confidence in that. I think a lot of the decision-making stuff this season has been overblown just because people early in the season were looking for a way to kind of be like, oh, Nick Sirianni.
I
But
completely agree. I've been saying that since week 3.
yeah.
You were doing it.
No, I did it during the Falcons game, which is the only game in which I thought there was bad decision making.
And the
People
Jaguars.
have been doing it, huh?
The Jaguars.
No, I didn't do it during the Jags game.
I have a little that says, why in the fuck did we go for it? But
I agree with that late, but I thought they lost that Jags game because of the complacency offensively, which is not his fault. That's a Kellen Moore issue. Yeah, that's a Kellen Moore issue. Huh?
They didn't lose the game. You guys won.
I know they didn't lose the game. They should have lost the game.
I wouldn't put it on Nick Sirianni.
No, I wouldn't have either. I'm not exactly calling for a Nick Sirianni extension by any means, and I still, the difference to me between the Lions and the Eagles as of right now is that I have a lot of faith in Dan Campbell's decision making and a lot less faith in Nick Sirianni's decision making. I think that is a kind of a key difference between those teams to me right now. But I don't feel as horrible about Sirianni from a cultural perspective as I did maybe a month ago when he was screaming at Eagles fans from the sideline after the Cleveland Browns game.
Yeah, there's that. There's also the fact that, in technicality, you have the all-time winningest coach in NFL history.
How's that?
He has the highest win percentage right now in NFL history.
Oh, okay.
Because somebody this season, I don't remember, somebody dropped. Maybe it was John Harbaugh after they lost last to the Steelers. It was recent.
Really?
Yeah, but I mean, it's not much
all time.
Yes, he does. I'm gonna fact check this actually.
That's a little surprising. Is it right?
No, I can't find it. It was winning percent, which makes sense because you guys have in the last 3 years have gone 14-3, 12-5, and are now 8-2.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it just has to come postseason success. That's all that matters. So, I mean,
he's fifth.
I look for them to continue.
It's among active head coaches.
Okay. Still,
And he's fifth all time.
Yeah.
Not bad.
So, no.
Not bad.
No. So, I'm bought in for the time being, and what Fangio and Moore have brought, as long as they stay, has been really consistent. I know for a fact Fangio is going to be here. Moore is a little bit of a different story. I have my worries about that, but But yeah, I'm excited for what the future holds for sure. You want to talk about your team?
Not really. It started really well. We were 7-3. There was no worry in the world. Well, there were a couple worries, but we're still winning games, which is all that matters at the end of the day. It's not like college football. There's no rankings determining if we're going to the playoffs or not. There's wins and losses, and it looked like we were going to be 8-3. We were going to go beat the. We were going to beat the what do you call it? Beat the shit out of the Lions. And I've calmed down on that one a bit, remembering we had no Nico, we had a lot of players out, but we were up 3 scores at halftime. That's a game you can't lose. I think that game has just been a summary of the entire season. Bobby Sloak went from being the best offensive coordinator in football to by far the worst. And yes, I'm putting him under Press Taylor and Luke Getsky.
I don't know about that.
When you have C.J. Stroud and you go multiple drives without passing the ball, we're in a situation now where is C.J. having a down year in technicality? Yeah, he hasn't been as good this year as he was last year. But when you're not letting him, like last year, there were just times where he would roll out and be like, all right, air it out, throw the ball. Now he wants CJ. He starts the year by having CJ play more conservative. And now in the last 3 years, I'm going to take this quote from the article I read. He wants CJ to not be afraid of throwing interceptions because he's him. Those were the words used. So now my quarterback, who has been one of the smartest quarterbacks in college football history, and only threw 5 interceptions last year, is now throwing it around wherever he wants because idiot offensive coordinator told him to. He's the core of the problem right now in Houston, I think. It's Bobby Sloak, not C.J. Stroud. He's been terrible. He needs to go. I cannot believe he's made it this far in the season. I think we're talking about a Josh Allen Bills turnaround last year, if kind of similar to when they fired guy whose name I'm forgetting and then hired
Ken Dorsey.
Yeah, when they fired Ken Dorsey and hired or promoted Joe Brady. It's been rough. The defense, don't be fooled by the numbers. The secondary has been bad. There's kind of been 4 core guys that played the secondary this year. The best one is by far has been Kamari Lassiter. The second round pick, I wasn't happy we picked him because I really wanted Kool-Aid, who went right before. But I've ended up being very happy with the pick. Kamari Lassiter's kind of been on an island, and it's kind of been overshadowed because Kenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean have just been awesome. But Kamari Lassiter has definitely been, outside of those two, the best rookie corner. Jalen Petrie had a rough start to the year. Was getting better and is now out probably until the playoffs, if we make the playoffs, which is sad, but it is what it is. And then there's Derek Stingley and Jimmy Ward. Jimmy Ward came in last year as the guy that was going to come over with D'Amico Ryans from San Francisco and kind of be the veteran presence. And it started out well, and then he was really bad to end the year. And it was like, all right, well, maybe he'll get better, and he's just been awful this season. He's been completely unreliable in coverage. He's not a good tackler. He's just regressed in every form. But D'Amico refuses to bench him. And then Derek Stingley it's just been an up and down thing his entire career. We're on year 3 now. Year 1, he got hurt. He had good moments, but he got hurt. He was out for the year after like 8-9 games. Last year was awful. He had an okay second half. He got better, but people try telling me he should have been a Pro Bowler. He was snubbed. According to NFL Pro, he has a defensive rating of 54, which translates to a F if you've ever been to school in America. That's not really good. He was bad last year, and then this year has been not worse, but he hasn't been good. He has a rating of 69.1, which is a D if you've ever been to school in America. He's been a complete liability in man coverage. I feel like every time we leave him on an island with somebody, it ends up in a 50-yard touchdown, which it literally has all 3 touchdowns he's allowed this season have been when he's been put on an island and just gets burnt by a guy you forgot was in the NFL. It's been bad. The linebackers have been bad. Aziz Al-Shahir at times has been a great acquisition, and then he's pissed away 2 games by continuously committing stupid illegal contact penalties,
I
taunting
wouldn't blame him
penalties,
there, man.
and he had those unsportsmanlike conduct penalty in there, like just not being he's been a good NFL player. He has been a smart player, and he's made a lot of mental mistakes. One of which cost us the game last week. One of which almost cost us a game a few weeks ago. I forget exactly which game, but it was one of the closer. And then the D line's been great. We have a good run defense. We have a good pass. We have a good run defense with the D line. We have a good pass rush. I couldn't ask for more. Danielle Hunter is awesome. Will Anderson should be a sleeper pick for defensive player of the year, but he missed a few games, so it's kind of just going to take him completely out of that. And then we'll go talk about the offense. C.J. Stroud having a down year still has potential to be a top 5 quarterback of football when he's 100% on. Joe Mixon was a great acquisition from the Bengals. He's been great this season. Nico Collins, when healthy, is awesome. Stephon Diggs was awesome out for the season. Unfortunately, hoping we can retain him because that would be massive if he's not asking for too much money, which I don't imagine he would be asking for an insane amount. Just because
not coming off the torn ACL,
which might have ended up being the best thing for us. So, Tank Dell really, really bad to start the season. Until the last few weeks, it kind of looks like he's finally recovering from all of the injuries and getting shot at nightclubs in the offseason. And, he's been great. There's 2 big glaring holes on offense. One is obvious and one is not so obvious. I'm going to start with the not so obvious one. It's going to make you laugh. Brevin Jordan not being on the field this year is absolutely detrimental. I look at it. I thought Dalton Schultz was good last year because I just looked at numbers.
Yeah.
But he doesn't fit the mold this offense is looking for. He's not great, and we overpaid him. Brevin Jordan at the end of last year started to assert himself as the guy who should be starting at tight end. And him tearing his ACL and just not being in there to play, playing like it's just like he was a utility guy. Yeah. He came in for the 2 tight end sets and was able to make it work with CJ. He played fullback on a lot of sets. He was a good run blocker. He was a good route runner. He was fast. He scored a 70-yard touchdown in a playoff game last year by simply outrunning the Browns secondary. You know what I mean? So that's been a kind of low-key sad loss for the season. And most people in H-Town will tell you that. And if you don't follow the Texans, you have no clue who I'm talking about. And then the second problem has been the entire offensive line. They're all terrible. Laremy Tunsil has been given what has to be one of the worst offensive line contracts in NFL history. His counterpart that plays right tackle has one of the other worst offensive line contracts in NFL history. Kenyon Green, bust, worst pick of the Nick Caserio era, besides maybe Derek Stingley. Juice Scruggs, second-round pick 2 years ago, terrible, god-awful NFL player. Shaq Mason was really good last year. Fun trade acquisition. Is awful this year. The only person that makes me happy is Jaret Patterson, who's been really good the past few weeks, stepping in for a lot of guys who have had injuries. CJ has no time to throw. He's forcing balls now because of this. It's just been a shit show. It's so depressing to watch. That's the biggest glaring hole in this entire roster. I really have to. You have to look at it from this. This is a liability on coaching. This is also one of the most penalized teams in football. Every week it feels like we watch, and D'Amico Ryan is like, well, we know that we're gonna get better. We're playing more disciplined in practice, and we show up and we have 12 penalties. 12 accepted penalties against the Titans, and we lose, and we let Will Levis throw for 30 points, for 300 yards, and they score 30 points. Yeah. And it's like, what the hell happened? The coaching staff has been a complete disappointment this season. I think it needs to be damn near wiped. I think your only people who are safe are Frank Ross, the special teams coordinator, because our special teams rock like they always do, and D'Amico Ryans is safe because of what happened last year, but I think you're going to get into a situation where he enters next year in a hot seat because this feels like a sudden collapse in Houston compared to what we were expecting after starting 7-3, being 7-5 right now, losing a game to a Titans after blowing a 21 or so point lead against the Lions. losing to the Jets on Thursday Night Football, barely beating the Colts, being pretty much Anthony Richardson's only 2 good games this season. And even the Cowboys game, you're going to look at it, oh, we won 34-10. It was sloppy. We played a bad game. If we had played a good game the way Dallas was playing, we should have put up 60 points.
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating. So that's it. Feel free to jump
No,
in.
I agree with a lot of that. I'd put less blame on D'Amico there. I do truly believe that a lot of this comes from the offensive infrastructure, as you were referring to, and a lot of the Stroud turnovers, like we were saying, from kind of being forced to play a lot of that, as we've discussed between the two of us, that kind of hero ball, which has kind of limited him.
Yeah.
The offensive line penalties don't help. The offensive line woes don't help. But really, I mean, still, this team at 7-5, I think you're looking at the positioning where down this final stretch of football, this is going to be really determinant in how the future of this roster is going to look, right? Because you're looking at basically in control of the AFC South, and yet
Are
you
we?
have matchups. Yeah, I would say so.
We play Miami.
That's what I'm saying. You have matchups with
And
Miami, Kansas City, Pittsburgh. Like, this is going to be really telling to us.
we don't play Pittsburgh.
You don't play Baltimore, is it?
The last stretch is Jags, Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens, Titans.
Okay. So, very telling in games with these top 3 contenders. How do they kind of hold up? Because they haven't really had to face, outside of that Lions game, a lot of that competition throughout the entirety of the season. That's largely why they've been able to get out to that 7-5 start. How do they match up in the trenches?
We completely shut down Josh Allen. I'll give that defense what credit's due. Josh Allen's worst game of the season came against us, and we beat the Bills, who you said might be the football.
The Baltimore game.
We didn't. Well, yeah, that.
Yeah.
But Josh Allen was incapable of playing well against us, and you think that they might be one of the best teams in football. Yeah, I know
they're the best team in football.
Exactly, we beat them, so thanks.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, Indianapolis is 2 games behind us, and that's a significantly easy schedule. I mean, I think there's a genuine shot here they win the division. We might not.
I just can't see that defense being able to put together enough for them to sustain anything close to a run at you guys.
I mean, like I think we drop Miami, Kansas City, and Baltimore at this rate. And
Maybe.
then it's a worry. Okay, you have to beat the Titans and Jaguars both on the road to finish with a positive, not a non-losing record.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna downplay the difficulty of it, but if this football team is anywhere near what we projected them to be, they should come out of this at least 3-2. So, I mean, that's my biggest question.
I don't think. I'm sorry, I don't think they do.
Yeah,
I think they come out of it 1-4.
Yeah,
I think we lose to the Titans in Week 18.
That would be pretty damning, I will say.
We'll win this week. Everyone will be like, "Oh, it's fine, they're back," and then I think we don't win a game until 2025.
That would be pretty damning.
In the season.
You think you finished 8-9?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
I'm gonna
give them 10.
There you go. They win the award for. They win the award for second biggest disappointment of the season.
There you go. So then, what's our biggest?
The Jets.
Yeah.
It's awful.
Maybe. I was gonna point to Cincinnati in that grouping as well, but I agree with New York, and we can start there.
No, I don't think anything comes close to what we were told was going to be this amazing resurgence of Jets football. Aaron Rodgers was back. They traded for Devontae Adams and Hassan Reddick, and the O-line was supposed to be good, and Breece Hall, and Robert Saleh finally has a good roster around. Oh my God! Like your coach got fired, the GM got fired. Aaron Rodgers is a drug addict. Devontae Adams forgot how to play football. Garrett Wilson's good. Breece Hall is good. That O-line is awful. The defense is just there. I don't really have an opinion. It doesn't matter because the offense can't score more than 20 points.
The defense is bad. Here's my thing. I think we all had a feeling this Jets season would end in disaster
No,
because that's
we all picked them to win the division.
how this has. I did. I picked Buffalo.
You picked them 9-8, the 7th seed in the AFC, then.
I did.
So you didn't think it was going to end in a disaster. So don't say that.
I think we all thought that this Jets team's ceiling, I'll say, was not something that they were going to be able to reach because of the injury woes that they had suffered over the past couple of seasons. And yet, I think the more surprising thing is not that they haven't reached their ceiling, it's the way in which they haven't reached their ceiling. It's the reality that defensively, this is not at all the unit that we thought it was, especially in the secondary, where Sauce Gardner has looked nothing like himself, where a pass rush, which was top 10 in pressure rate a year ago, has completely fallen off a cliff. Teams are running the football all over the place on this football team. And then offensively on the other side, there's just simply been no improvement, even with the addition of Rodgers. And I'm not going to be the guy to come out and say, oh my God, Aaron Rodgers has been so awful this season, because I truly don't believe that. I think this has been the worst season of his career by a landslide. I don't think he's been great so far this season. But the offensive line woes just continue to plague them. And it's not a formula for success. And so a month ago, and you just talked about the Davante Adams trade and how you boosted that ceiling. By that point, I was done already, because I just don't believe when you're getting dominated in the trenches to that extent, there's any way to be able to win football games. And they've proved me right.
I mean, I just don't know how you come back from this next year.
Yeah. I don't think you do.
But I forget the manager's name or the owner's name.
Woody Johnson.
Woody Johnson. That's not an option. I think I genuinely believe that the whole Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be back there thing. I think all those rumors are blown up out of proportion. I don't think any of it's true. He's come out. He came out on talk shows and said if he was going to play in 2025, he's playing for the Jets. So
I don't think the Jets want Aaron Rodgers to play for them in 2025, and I don't blame them for that.
That's what I think is true. I don't think the stuff about Rodgers wanting out is true.
I don't think it is, but I think that's stuff that's largely propagated out of Johnson's camp in order to put out something that makes it seem that way, so that it's easier for them to get rid of Rodgers. Because I do feel like that is the move for this team, because this has to be a teardown, and a 40-year-old quarterback cannot be a part of that. This has to be stripping it down to its bare parts, and I think that calls for a Davante Adams trade. I think that calls for taking calls on not just Reddick, but even some of the blue chippers on this team. We talk about a Jermaine Johnson, a Garrett Wilson, starting to kind of pick holes in this, and really, come to terms with what you are as a franchise. And that's something the Jets have been kind of in a refusal to do over the past 3 years, simply because they've believed that they're just a quarterback away from extending their ceiling, and they've been proven wrong in that regard. So,
but they had I think they had every reason to think they were a quarterback away after last year.
Honestly, Mike, I just don't think
if you came back and told me that entire defense was going to return, except you're trading Bryce Huff for Hassan Reddick, and then the offense was going to be the same, and you're going to have Aaron Rodgers though instead of Zach Wilson and Tim Boyle, and at some point Davante Adams was going to be there. You could have sold me that they were going to go to the Super Bowl. Honestly,
defensive success in this league is so volatile, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
I think just the reliance on that and a lack of investment in improvement, because the Hassan Reddick trade, I don't believe was investing in improvement. It was a trade-off. You lost Huff in free agency. You traded for Reddick as simply a trade-off in that regard. They made no investment in getting better in the right now defensively this offseason. Through the draft, the way they utilized their draft picks was all towards getting better in the future. While the team right now, the team that they had paid and signed for, was a team that was looking to contend right now. The Braylon Allen pick, the Olu Fashanu pick, those are not picks you make for right now. Those are picks you make for 3 years from now.
Yep.
So it's frustrating to see the mixing of that. You have to choose a direction. And I think it's obvious, it's become obvious now, the direction they have to choose.
You know what's really funny that I just thought about? Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Raider next year, isn't he?
No.
Does Mark Davis really accept the rebuild, though?
No. Here's my thing. And I know this is going to be the lead in into your Raiders spiel. So I'll let you get into it.
I don't have spiel, but go ahead.
But I believe Mark Davis at least has the sense to realize after an offseason in which he paid Gardner Minshew the amount of money that he did to contribute to this offense, that there needs to be an inflection of youth in Las Vegas. And I don't know that there is a team that is an Aaron Rodgers suitor as of right now.
I mean,
but I have a funny one.
Podcast for 10 minutes while I brainstorm, but
I have a funny one.
What?
That I can throw you. Are you ready?
I think we might be thinking the same one, but you tell me.
I don't think you're ready.
I'm ready. I'm ready. I wasn't ready. I thought you were gonna say the Titans or the Cowboys.
No. Minnesota Vikings.
Oh, no McCarthy. Remember?
Minnesota.
JJ McCarthy.
What happens if JJ McCarthy's not ready?
Sam Darnold.
What happens if Sam Darnold walks?
You really think Aaron Rodgers is taking less than $8 billion a year?
I don't know that Aaron Rodgers has a choice.
Yeah,
he wants to continue to play football in 2025.
I don't even think he does, but that man gets whatever he wants when he wants, and we both know that.
I don't know, man. I think if McCarthy's not ready, not a bad fit.
I mean, that would be a blessing for the Vikings that they wouldn't have to play JJ McCarthy.
Think about Kevin O'Connell, championship window. That defense, Aaron Rodgers right in the thick of it. I'm just saying. I think it's a good.
If they really thought they had a championship window, they wouldn't have drafted that idiot.
I don't think they did when they drafted him, though.
Well, then get rid of him. Pull the Trey Lance. Get him out. There's no way he's going to be good. Especially
we'll find out, man.
Mobility, and then he tore his ACL at practice.
What were we saying about Bo Nix?
Bo Nix did tear his ACL.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So, All right. Give me one prediction for the fourth quarter of this stretch run. Make it bold.
This is where we're going to cut because I'm going to spend 5 minutes trying to come up with one because for some reason I didn't. The 49ers missed the playoffs.
Oh, you got to go bolder than that. Jeez.
My apologies.
They have 5% odds.
This is hard. Does it have to be team based? You go first. You talk. I won't listen to
Okay.
you while you talk.
Let me go first.
Yeah, go
Okay.
ahead.
My bold prediction for the remainder of the 2024 NFL season. I believe that the Seattle Seahawks will win the NFC West.
Okay.
I think they've finally put it together. We're talking about a team that last
shut up.
week, huh?
6-5. Shut up.
Last week, defensively, even with how they've torn apart their linebacker core throughout this season, finally looked complete as a defense. Their pass rush was fantastic. Mike McDonald was running all those stunning blitzes we saw in Seattle. Devin Witherspoon played a really good game. Reek Woolen is having a resurgent season. And then offensively, guess what? They still haven't been able to figure out how to run the ball with Kenneth Walker because their interior offensive line's been so bad. It's been Geno Dillon.
Kenneth Walker's so good.
Kenneth Walker's so good. He's the ultimate weapon. And he's been the ultimate weapon in the pass game as well because Geno Smith has been dealing. So I have a lot of confidence in what they're going to do defensively over the second half of the season.
My dog is Flowers.
Who?
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
He's wide receiver 1, dog.
I know he is.
He is wide receiver 1 in that offense, and he
I
is
told you.
himself.
I told you he was a generation. He's going to develop into one of the best receivers in football. I told you he was the best receiver prospect I'd seen since Chase.
Yep. He's absolutely developed, and it's fun to watch as Tyler Lockett is slowly, starting to age in his prime. And I know he's Tyler Lockett, and he refuses to take any contact ever, so he's going to play till he's 80 years old. But to have a receiver who's able to create separation like him. Huh?
They have Cornell Powell. I might be all in.
Yeah, they are a really fun, really good football team, and I'll go even bolder if we'd like. I think they win a playoff game as well. So
the NFC sucks. Who are they going to play? They're going to play the Commanders, or
the
they're
Vikings,
going to play
the Packers.
Oh, I forgot about that division. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll give you bold. It's gonna make you smile too.
Okay.
I think Saquon Barkley wins MVP.
I like that one. Give me the case.
All right. Well, Eagles collapsed last year, as we all know.
Yeah.
Needed a play. They had, you know what? Like I thought DeAndre Swift was good last year.
Yeah,
it could have been better, but he was a good running back. He had 1,000 yards. Quality production.
Yeah.
You needed the game changer. You needed somebody who's going to come in and change it.
Mm-hmm.
And you now have a guy who's on pace to break the all-time record for rushing yards this season.
Yep.
He has 1,600 all-purpose yards, and it's week 13. He's played 11 games.
Yep.
He's the best player in football. He's the most valuable player in football. And I think in a year where no quarterback is kind of making his case, because I think Lamar is at a couple weeks. You know what? We find out on Sunday because the Eagles play the Ravens.
That's what I'm saying. And really, that's it for me. I think Lamar has probably having a better season than he did in his MVP year. But I agree with the impact that Barkley's had on this offense. And, if he's able to have a 150-yard game against what's been one of the best run defenses in football, despite how they've struggled as a pass defense, I think that would be quite the help to his case.
I'll go even bolder for you.
Yep.
The Eagles win the NFC.
And that I'm not opposed to either.
Eagles, Texans. We're not going to talk to each other for weeks.
I would still talk to you. Stop it.
I wouldn't talk to you. I wouldn't talk to you during the game.
I have one. Oh, I wouldn't talk to you during the game. Hell no.
I wouldn't talk to you for that week. I wouldn't talk to you for a week after.
I don't talk to anybody during the game. You should have seen me in 22.
Yes,
I had
so
headphones in for the entire 3 hours.
I don't even know. I don't even know how I would react.
Yeah,
I wasn't all in on the Phillies in 2022. Like,
yeah.
but like I guess now, me breaking the sound barrier after Castellanos' walk off in Game 2, I think I would.
Yeah.
I think I'd like. I don't think I'd ever have a greater moment sports wise in my life than if the Texans made the AFC Championship
Championship game. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
after watching the Case Keenum, not the Case Keenum, Davis Mills, Kyle Allen.
2-quarterback system.
No, Jeff Driscoll. Sorry.
Yep.
Kyle Allen's actually respectable. Jeff Driscoll.
Nothing wrong with the 2-quarterback system.
There was a lot wrong with it. There's a reason Lovie Smith got fired.
No. And it's going to be a lot of fun, and we have a lot to
We're all-
look forward to.
I'll cop out my bold prediction. My series is that the Texans beat the Chiefs on the Ravens.
Okay. We'll take
I have to get Christian Harris back at some point.
Yeah. You don't like Toa Toa?
No, he sucks. Never. I don't know why we let Blake Cashman walk.
He demanded a lot of money.
Should have given it to him.
Yeah.
Dalton Schultz, though, man.
Yeah, I know.
I saved money for Derek Stingley, who's going to be the vein of my existence for the next 10 years.
The devaluation of the linebacker position continuing to cost franchises across the league.
Linebacker is an important position.
It is. Yeah.
I'm not saying that because I played linebacker in high school.
All right, though. Who are we going to fire on this special Wednesday night?
Bobby Slowick.
Fire
Nick
Bobby
Nurse.
Slowick.
Joel
Yes,
Embiid.
please fire Nick Nurse.
Joel
Please
Embiid.
fire Nick Nurse. That's it.